Welcome! This tutorial is going to be about logarithms, and in this video we are going to talk about logarithms with base 10, and the natural logarithm with base e is still following in another video, so do not worry. And also, I know that pretty much everyone hates logarithms because they seem to be complicated and they can also be tricky in some cases. However, if you follow this calculation, then you will see that it is actually easier than it seems to be. So to get started right away, why do we need logarithms? Because most of the time we have calculations which look something like you have a number to the power of something and then you're looking for the result of that. However, with logarithms you need to calculate it the other way around. So to go to an example, we have 4 to the power of x, so 4 to the power of an unknown number equal to a predefined result. And in order to solve this x, we actually need the logarithm. How does the logarithm look like? So we have logarithm with base 4 of 16, which gives us then the final result that is our exponent before. So just to put that into a general form, which you can also use then for your calculations, it looks something similar to this. So we have base to the power of x equal to our predefined result 16, so equal to y. And then basically what we are looking for is this exponent here, which gives us then the calculation, so logarithm with base of our final result, which is y, equal to the exponent that we were looking for, equal to x. And that's about it. However, you still need to remember some kind of rules that are also important for calculating logarithms. And to start off with, we first have the rule of multiplication and divisions. And most of the rules here are just there in order to simplify the whole calculation, and also if you have larger numbers, which is then the case for multiplications and divisions, for example. So there are most of the time multiple forms how you can have the predefined result in the end, and if you just have a sole number, as we had before with the 16, you would then go there and calculate logarithm with base 4 of 16. However, there's still a different way to do this. We can rewrite it as logarithm with base 4 of 4 times 4. Why would we do that? Because with this calculation we are able to split that into two additions, and as you can see we have the logarithm with base 4 of 4 plus logarithm with base 4 of 4. And as you will see after doing those calculations, if you have the same in the base as in the brackets, this will be always 1. So from our example you would directly see now that our final result needs to be 2. And there is also a general form for this. So we would have the logarithm with the base of x times y. And why it's x times y, although we had the same numbers here, because those numbers don't need to be the same necessarily. It was just a coincidence that it was here, especially because this is a quadratic number. So logarithm with base of x times y, and we can split that into logarithm with base of x plus the logarithm with the base of y. And as I mentioned before now, x and y do not need to be the same numbers. However, what you need to know, or what you need to remember, is that the bases need to be the same. And therefore it's also base here and base here, and not anything different than that. And for the division this works pretty much the same as for the multiplication. The second example, or the second rule, is the exponent. So another way to rewrite it can be having rewritten it as an exponent or with an exponent, because imagine now that this 4 would be a larger number, and then also if it would be squared, this would also just get too large in order to calculate it simply. And in order to simplify this, before we actually do the logarithmic calculation, we can just leave it as a number with an exponent. So if we would have then those kind of examples, you can see we would have logarithm with base 4 of 4 squared. And what we do now is basically we drag the exponent before. So that means we just multiply it then in the end after having solved the logarithm. And the logarithm is solved before, so it's not like you calculate 2 times log, because that wouldn't make any sense. The general form for this one would be then logarithm with base of x to the power of y, and then you would just have y times the logarithm with base of x. And as you can see now, in this example, I would say it made it simple. I mean, you could also do it then with the multiplication rule, but if you see it now, we have 2 times the logarithm with base 4 of 4, which I also said before is 1. That means you would just have 2 times 1. And that's pretty much it. The third rule is the rules about square roots, and I already written down the general form, because this is a bit more difficult to understand depending on how much you know about roots, because the general form is logarithm with base of a root of x, and it can be either the square root, so you would then insert a 2 for y, or just leave it like that because the square root is the general form of a root, or it can be the third root or the fourth root or whatever. And you will see why that matters now, because in the end how you would rewrite it would be then equal to the logarithm with base of x divided by y. So that means, imagine now you have a square root, that means that y needs to be 2. If you have the third root, so 3 for y, it will be divided by 3, and so on. So why did I say now that it depends on how much you know about roots? Because the logic why you would rewrite it this way depends pretty much on how you rewrite roots. So I will show you now pretty much the same general basic form as you are seeing now, and then you will see the difference on what I'm talking about. So again, logarithm with base, and now there's the difference. So if you have a root, you can always rewrite it as a form of a power. So that means we would have x, and then we would rewrite it as x to the power of 1 minus y. So that means if we would just have the square root now, it would be then x to the power of 1 half. Or if we would have the third root, it would be then 1 over 3, and so on. And as you can take from the second rule, you will have then 1 over y times the logarithm with base x. And this is pretty much the same as this one. So this is then just like this most easy way in order to calculate square roots within the logarithm. And then the last rule, this is not really a rule, but this is something you need to know, especially if you have an old calculator. So if you have a modern calculator, you will be, and I'm pretty sure about that, you will be able to type the logarithm as this form. It doesn't necessarily need to be like this huge graphical whatever calculator, just one of the newer models. However, if you do not have this kind of calculator, you will need to just use the simple log that is then on your calculator. And if you use this log, it will always take base 10. That means you will have the log with base 10 of whatever you need to calculate. And now you're probably asking, how am I supposed then to do the calculation if I cannot use then 4 as a base, if I have then this kind of example? What you need to know is that you can basically rewrite this and define it as with a logarithm with base 10. How you do that is not that difficult. First of all, you will write it as a fraction. Then you would have, so imagine now this example would be logarithm with base 4 of 16, just in the general form. So what we would do is we have logarithm with base 10, because this is then pretty much the predefined base that we have in the calculator of x. And what we need to do now is then pretty much do the logarithm of our base. So log with base 10 of our base. And this will be 100% the same result as if you would type it in directly like that. Again, modern calculators, if you are allowed to use them, are always a blessing and make calculations easier. However, there's always a way to rewrite things and even calculate it with an old calculator. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope it was helpful. Other than that, subscribe to my channel and follow me on my social media for updates on the videos. And also, if you have specific questions on mathematical problems, maybe tips or tricks for learning, then either send me a message through social media or comment down below. And I hope you will be here for my next video as well.